Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Matt Leonard.
Bill, today we're going to learn about Long Island Traditions, a nonprofit organization that helps support preserving local grassroots culture, ethnic and marine traditions, vernacular architecture, and family traditions.
That sounds interesting. So let's learn more by welcoming our guest, Nancy Solomon, the director of Long Island Traditions. Nancy, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Thank you.
Nancy, I hope you're doing well right now, but especially because of the pandemic, has that affected you personally?
Fortunately, not personally. We kept very close. We did lots of recorded interviews like the ones that you're doing today using Zoom and remote technologies. And a couple of times we were able to go outdoors with some of the tradition bearers that we work with, where it was safe and there was wind and there was social distancing.
I think we check all the boxes, so we're well behaved, we're good, and we're staying away from that mean old corona. Matt?
I like that, Bill. Mean old corona. Nancy, please tell us, what is Long Island Traditions and how long has it been around?
Okay. Well, Long Island Traditions is the regional folk arts organization for Nassau and Suffolk County. And what we do is we try and document the people that are carrying on traditions learned within their families and communities. And by documentation, I mean that we go out and we do recorded interviews. We take photographs of people carrying on their traditions. We have videos where somebody might be creating something, whether it's a boat or a model of a boat or various music traditions from different ethnic communities, South Asian communities, Portuguese, African American. And we then present these programs so that we're not the only ones who are learning about them, so that everybody can learn about them. And our hope is that people will learn to appreciate the traditions of their own families, but also of people that they may not be familiar with.
Nancy, that sounds very interesting. I'm excited to know a lot more about it, but I want to know, because I have a new term here that I don't know what it is. What is a folklorist, and how does someone become one?
Well, a folklorist is somebody who has typically a master's or a PhD, believe it or not, in documenting local traditional culture. And I received my master's degree from George Washington University. And a folklorist is somebody who, understands that they need to meet people and to document them as they are creating or perpetuating the traditions they learned from other people in their community. A lot of people think I'm a historian, and I am not, because I don't do manuscript research. I don't verify necessarily things that people tell me, but the fact that there are incredible stories and memories that people hold on to and share with us, that is our mission, is to bring that out to the public so that other people can learn about those traditions.
When you meet someone, I'm just wondering how a folklorist goes about their business. Do you have any interesting traditions, or do you happen to pass by someone and see maybe a Thanksgiving decoration or something and say, how did that come about, and get the backstory? Like, how do you learn what you know?
We learn through what's called close observation or ethnography, going around. I remember the first time I came to Long Island, I knew that there was a strong maritime culture here on Long Island because we're surrounded by water. So I went down to the docks and I started waiting for the fishermen coming back from their day to see what they caught, and then learned how they caught it, how long they've been doing this, who they learned from. Another time, I happened to be walking around my neighborhood in Baldwin, and I heard a steel band. And I thought to myself, why is there a steel band here in Baldwin? When we think of steel bands, we think of Brooklyn, we think of Trinidad. And lo and behold, I met the people who were playing the pans. And I started, saying, I would love to do something with you. And so we did interviews, and then we started doing programs. So it's really keeping your eyes open to the sounds, the smells, the activities that are part of your daily life that maybe you never even thought, gee, who does that and why?
So you're kind of like the car enthusiast, like they'll see a special car or an old, no, I'm serious. I don't, I mean, as a joke, and they're tuned into that. I wouldn't know the difference, but they know that was a paint that went out of style years ago, and that's what makes that car valuable. You see people and you kind of hone in on their culture.
Right. And I'm laughing because I actually did a several-year project on car culture people and how they customized their cars and had all kinds of etchings and souped up their engines. I wanted to learn more about those people, and we had them display their cars at a show that we were doing.
Perfect. Matt?
Now, there's a new term that I haven't heard of either, and that is cellphone tours. How did the Long Island Backstory Cellphone Tours come about, and what is a cell phone tour for our audience that doesn't know?
Okay. Well, the cell phone tours came about because somebody from a cell phone company asked if we were interested in taking people on tours that they could do by themselves using their cell phone. And they had developed an app. And I thought, gee, what a great idea, because there's so many times you probably hear about, somebody that's leading a tour and you're busy. Or you have kids and you're not sure, if you want to, spend time going on a tour or bringing your family. So I said to myself, I'm sure there are other companies that are doing this. And we found Travel Story, which is an app you can put on your phone and you can download a tour. And on our tours, when you get to a particular destination, for instance, we have one on the Nautical Mile by Two Cousins Fish Market, and you can learn about one of the baymen who used to live on the Nautical Mile, Corey Wyatt. He passed away, but he had these wonderful stories. And I thought, people enjoy listening to stories, and they could do this on their own time. And there are historic pictures, how the Nautical Mile used to look, how it looks now, as well as, learn something that you wouldn't know about otherwise. And a lot of our mission is to bring out things that you wouldn't know about otherwise.
That's really interesting. And I was just thinking as you were talking, several years ago, I went on vacation, and when we went to one of the scenic areas, they offered us the opportunity to have like a little recording device that we walked around with. And you plugged it in and it said, now you're standing at this rock and this is important because, and this house was owned by, and this section of the country was used for this war or this event, etc. And I guess this is just the next stage, the phone app. Also,
our tours are based on the stories that we've collected from local people. So again, if you didn't know that person, you would not know that they had all these incredible stories. So we have stories, from baymen, from boat builders, from bay house owners, from people who were rescuing people during Superstorm Sandy, decoy carvers. So it really is the story, of a person that you might not meet otherwise. And we think it's a little more entertaining than somebody narrating a description of what you're looking at. This is really to give you that behind the scenes understanding.
You've given me the perfect lead into my next question, because I was going to ask you, first of all, what is a bay house? And then can you share that story with us?
Okay. Well, a bay house are these small shacks that if you've ever driven to Jones Beach, you see on the marshlands before you get to Jones Beach. They're a little bit off in the distance. They're near the Meadowbrook Parkway, the Wantagh Parkway, the Loop Parkway. And these were originally built by fishermen and baymen and duck hunters who wanted a place to stay while they were clamming or oystering or hunting, especially in the winter when it was really cold. And the person that we feature in our Bay House story is a current Bay House owner. His name is Brian Warasilla. And in his story, he really shares why he has this bay house, because bay houses are not easy things to build or to maintain, especially in the era of climate change. And so you'll see pictures of his bay house as well as, why he continues. I don't want to give away his whole story because it's his story.
Now, are there bay house are there a lot of these on Long Island, and are there bay house tours that people could take?
There are two groups of bay houses in the town of Hempstead. We now have about 30 bay houses. That's up from 12 right after Superstorm Sandy. A lot of people rebuilt. There's also a group of bay houses in the town of Islip, and there are about 40 bay houses there. We do tours, but by the time you hear this program, they're probably going to have happened already. We do them at the end of the summer and the early fall, but we do them every year.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Matt Leonard. I'm along with Bill Horan, and today we are talking about Long Island Traditions, a nonprofit organization that helps support preserving local grassroots culture, ethnic and maritime traditions, vernacular architecture, and family traditions with our guest, Nancy Solomon, the director of Long Island Traditions. My next question is about your Maritime Film Festival that was scheduled in 2020 that was unfortunately canceled due to COVID. Are there any future plans for that or any other of your events?
Well, I'm very, very happy to say that we have now rescheduled our Maritime Film Festival. It's going to be happening in March and April of 2022. And it's going to be opening with our documentary, A World Within a World, The Bay Houses of Long Island. And that was made by Barbara Weber and Greg Blank. And we're going to be screening it at both the Huntington Cinema Arts Center and the Patchogue Plaza Media Center. There'll be information on our website at longislandtraditions.org. We're also going to be showing films dealing with boat building, sailboat racing. Dawn Riley of the Oak Cliff Sailing School, who is featured in the movie Maiden. Some of you may have seen it several years ago, but now you'll get a chance to talk with one of the women that was involved in that race. And we're also going to be presenting people that are still engaged in these maritime traditions. So that's coming up next spring of 2022. We're really looking forward to this.
Nancy, if someone goes on one of the tours, are they all in effect structured the same way? Like, what would it be? Is it an hour, hour and a half, 3 hours, half day? And are they the same, or are there like 8 different ones? One in the forest, one by the water, another one for bay houses, etc.
Each of the stops on our Cellphone Tours is very different. One will take you from the nautical mile. Well, you'll learn about, some of the traditions of the nautical mile, the Scopinich family. Another one, if you go to the Lido Beach stop, is about bay houses. Another stop is Jones Beach, where we have the legendary lifeguard, Reggie Jones, talking about his experiences in rescuing people. We have another stop in Babylon that deals with Superstorm Sandy. Another stop in Patchogue, where you'll learn about the historic Weeks Boatyard. Then on our East End tour, you can go to Napeague State Park, where you'll learn about the Promised Land Fish Company. You can go to Halleckville, where you'll learn about decoy carver Jack Combs, whose decoy shop is on the property. And you can go to the Hanff Boatyard in Greenport and learn about the history of that boatyard from John Costello. So they're very different places. You can do them all together. You can take your time and go to one or two places, while you're driving around. They're all scenic places, and, we know that you'll enjoy the ambiance of the locations. We hope you will anyway. And we're working on some new tours, so stay tuned.
Now, Nancy, where would someone start out? In other words, if you went to Jones Beach, you'd start out at Jones Beach. But is there a point, starting point, or do you just go by yourself to a location and get it on the phone app?
You can do it however is easiest for you. You can start, in Patchogue if you happen to be near there. You can start in Babylon. You can start in Hampton Bays, where we have 2 stops. It's at your convenience. So there's no set route, but you can do all of the spots on a tour, usually within a full day. Sometimes, you can, stop for lunch, which we hope you do, or stop for dinner, and you can do part of the tours on one day. It's at your convenience. That's why we like these cell phone tours.
It sounds really great because, again, sometime depending on the nature and the age of the people doing it, meaning if there's young children, they may get bored or need a bathroom break or something, or want to do something, go to have some ice cream, and then go see something to do more with the fish and the beach. So one might be more intellectual, the other might be more hands-on. So I think you have the right formula, and I'm sure it's working well.
Thank you. We hope so. We know that people are downloading it. But again, we want to get people out there and to learn about that story that they wouldn't know about otherwise.
Matt?
We have recordings of so many different people. And, now with all this great technology, it's so easy to share it with other people.
And you look like you really enjoy what you do, which is always fun to have someone on who honestly enjoys their work. You've been smiling through the whole interview, and it looks like you just really enjoy this type of work.
There are times when I question my career motives, especially when it comes to the cost of living on Long Island. But other than that, it's been a wonderful occupation. There are so many different kinds of people on Long Island. Like just the other day, I heard about, somebody who makes fishing lures. And I thought, gee, I want to bring him to the Tobay Boat Show where we have demonstrations happening on that weekend, with people that we've worked with. And that's the kind of thing that gives you inspiration that says, we really live in a very special place.
Now, I understand you have a 20-year partnership with the Village of Great Neck Plaza regarding the historic sites there. What are some of those? And tell our listeners, do you have any partnerships with other towns as well?
Our partnership with Great Neck started in the early 2000s when they decided they wanted to create a greater awareness of their historic architecture and the stories of their village. And so we conducted about a dozen interviews with people from all different walks of life, people who had immigrated, people whose parents, were original settlers, people who, had, very interesting businesses, whether it was a jewelry store or they worked in the cinema. And they had all kinds of memories. And so from that, we highlighted certain properties that we felt would really add a level of knowledge for the people who live and visit Great Neck Plaza. And so we, created a number of historic districts. We had things designated as local landmarks. And you can actually listen to some of the stories that we collected, on their website. Fast forward, I recently been asked by the Village of Rockville Center to conduct a survey. And to give you a comparison, in Great Neck, I think we identified probably about 30 or 40 historic structures that were significant. When I started in Rockville Center, we're talking hundreds of beautiful homes throughout the village. And so now we're hoping to focus in on the downtown and the south part of the village and create some kind of historic walking tour and general program where, school-age kids and local residents can learn more about the history of their village. We've also worked with the Village of Seacliff. We've done work for the South Shore Estuary Reserve Council on some of the South Shore towns, and you can learn about all of our surveys on the South Shore on our website. And
Nancy, is there a story you can share with us? I'm sure as you go through these traditions, you come up with either unusual things, whether there's Martians living on Long Island or ghosts, or just that maybe somebody of national fame did something or lived here or had an adventure or part of their career was on Long Island. Is there a particularly interesting story that you can tell us that you can share with the audience?
I think one of the most interesting figures and at times a polarizing figure was Robert Moses, of course, the great master planner who created many of our state parks. And I have an exhibit that's along the Jones Beach bicycle path that details the history of both the parkway and the creation of Jones Beach. And as I was researching the creation of the parkways, I was delving into the archives of state parks. And one of the more interesting things I found was a blueprint that was created by both Robert Moses and Sidney Shapiro, his lead architect. And on that blueprint was not a building, It was not the Parkway. They were designed for brooms.
What?
And I thought they were designed for brooms, like for sweeping,
brooms.
Cleaning up. And I thought to myself, gee, I guess he really was not happy with your ordinary broom that you could get in the hardware store. He had to have a state-designed broom that had his imprimatur for whatever reason. And I thought that's something a lot of people don't know. And
that is a good story. I never would have expected that.
And I later interviewed a secretary who worked for him, and I asked her about that. And she said at times he just felt that he could do anything and he wanted to.
Well, I guess everybody works their own way, and maybe as a broom salesman, he had an extra career going for him. Matt?
I noticed you have an online store, which I assume is one of the ways you fundraise as a nonprofit organization. What are some of the items for sale? And give us out your website.
Okay, our website is longislandtraditions.org. And we have lots of different things in our shop. We have our book on the Bay, which is about the Bay houses. We have our new movie, the documentary, A World Within a World, also about Bay houses. We have films that we have been associated with other filmmakers. Glenn Gephardt did 2 wonderful films. One is called Baymen. One is called A Farm Picture. We've also worked with George Posdurek, who directed Jones Beach and American Riviera. You can also find raffle tickets. We raffle off a painting by Dan Polera of a Bay house every year, and that's going on until the end of our calendar year. And it's longislandtraditions.org.
And by the way, Nancy, I was going to ask you for anything, and if people want to know more about this or one of the tours, where should they go? How should they connect with you?
There is a link on our homepage directly to the Travel Story app. And that's all they have to do is just come to our homepage and then follow the link, to Travel Story. If they want to do it directly on their phone, they can just go to the App Store and download Travel Stories. And it's spelled TRAVELSTORYS, not stories, IES, STORYS.
And was the website longislandtraditions.org? Is that what you said?
That's correct. And it's all spelled out.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now, I read on your website that you sponsor various arts and education programs actually supported by the New York State Council on the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Tell us about these programs.
Okay. We believe firmly that a lot of the people we meet would help students understand more about their own local traditions. So we've been partnering with the Freeport School District for many years, the East Williston School District, the Comac School District, and we bring artists directly into the classrooms doing a combination of presentation as well as hands-on activities. For instance, we did a wonderful program on Native American culture with the Comac School District. We brought people from the Shinnecock tribe, as well as Ina McNeil, who's a descendant of Chief Sitting Bull. And students do interview projects, and they also do documentation projects from those interviews. So they've created films and PowerPoint presentations and other exhibits. And these programs we feel are very important because there's such an emphasis these days on math and science and English language, and you lose the connection to why you would want to learn how to do an interview, how you would like to meet somebody who's not like you. And we just feel, especially, in our multicultural region, that there are people who have such incredible stories and traditions to share.
Do you get a lot from the Hampton area? I'm just wondering if that's highly productive. The Hamptons on Long Island?
Well, we have worked, very closely with the Shinnecock Reservation for many years, and a lot of the East End Baymen we have worked with. In fact, one of them is Ken Maids, who lives in Hampton Bays. He's part of our Travel Stories tour. And we have been, we've been trying to help the fishermen maintain their way of life because there's so much pressure these days with regulations and now the proposed wind farm, that we're really trying to be an advocate by going to meetings if they're not able to. And we've worked with the Parish Museum and various East End libraries to present the people that we've been meeting.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Matt Leonard. I'm with Bill Horan, and today we are talking about Long Island Traditions, a nonprofit organization that helps support preserving local grassroots culture, ethnic and maritime traditions, vernacular architecture, and family traditions, with our guest, Nancy Solomon, the director of Long Island Traditions. Now, I'm just wondering, I'm from Syosset. That's where I live. That's where I grew up. And a lot of the towns around me don't seem like they're as, historic as, let's say, like you said, like a town like Freeport or maybe in the Hamptons on the East End in terms of Long Island history. Is there anything for anywhere in that area that would be even remotely interesting to someone like you?
Okay, well, I happen to know a wonderful Indian dance teacher who lives in Syosset. Again, you got to scratch beneath the surface, see who's living there, things you might not know about them. There's also a wonderful klezmer group, and one of their members lives in Syosset. His name is Ken Maltz. He happens to sit on my board. So there are so many different ethnic traditions that are part of our communities. I'm sure if you and I ever had, a few minutes to talk, I could learn things about your family that you probably don't recognize that are important in terms of your culture and in terms of the community.
Nancy, I wanted you to know right now, I will pay money and make a donation to your organization to see Matt Leonard do Indian dances. If we can get him doing that, I will actually make a generous contribution. So there you go. Nancy, before we wrap up, what's one thing you want to leave us with in the next 10 seconds about Long Island traditions?
I want anybody who's listening to this interview to start paying attention to people in your family and in your network of friends and see what you can learn about them that you might not have known about. That's how we express ourselves. That's what makes us human. And especially after the year we've just had, let's try and connect again to the things that make Long Island such an incredible place.
A perfect wrap up. I want to thank Nancy Solomon, the director of Long Island Traditions. Nancy, thank you for taking time out and for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Bill and Matt. It's been a pleasure talking with you and sharing. And I thank you very much for having us on your wonderful show.
We had a lot of fun. I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Matt Leonard. We thank you for listening to this week's special edition of My Hometown.
We'd like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC@ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.